Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Droid Live Show, episode 52, I believe. After a week off, we are back. And 2 weeks worth of stuff to talk about. Actually, I could say 2 weeks worth of stuff, but it seems like just HTC One stuff to talk about. So, anyways, I'm your host, Kellen. With me, Ron, Kyle, and Eric. Everybody say hi real quick, guys.
Hey.
Hey, it's Eric.
Hey guys.
All right, so yeah, the biggest topics of the last 2 weeks, it really has just been the HTC One, or the all-new HTC One, or the HTC One 2014, or whatever you want to, or the Mate, or the M8.
HTC2.
It's been like 6
One up.
Yeah, or the One Up, which, by the way, HTC keeps using the hashtag One Up.
Yeah, they do.
Won't that confuse like OnePlus people?
I was very confused for a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk about just like a quick overview of all the stuff that's gone on. We've got, first of all, 2 major video leaks, right? And this is how long it's been since we've been on air. There was the 12-minute video that was extremely painful to watch. Did you guys all watch the 12-minute original leak video from that kid that looked like he had stolen the phone from his parents? It was like in his bedroom.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all say, unfortunately, yes, we sat through
I
that.
could not get through the whole thing.
Yeah. So I did. I think twice, maybe. It was. Anyways, he didn't tell us anything new, really. He just rambled. I don't know if you guys saw this video. 12 minutes of a kid in his bedroom, on his bed, like Transformers. Okay, there weren't Transformers and stuff, but
That would have been a lot better.
that would have been a lot better, yeah. He had an original HTC One and then the new one, and he kept trying to. The funniest part was he kept trying to go, whoops, better cover that up, and he'd use his thumb to cover up the serial number and IMEI and all that stuff, and it was so painful. And he gave us nothing new other than looks at it. They'd protected the version of Sense, which we know now is 6.0. They protect the version of Android. He didn't do any. He tried to use the camera, but it was completely beta or broken, or he didn't know how to use it. Anyway, so that kickstarted this whole thing with a 12-minute video. Now we've had another video of the T-Mobile variant. Then we had a sales guide leak. We had a carrier sort of brochure leak. We had a dummy unit leak. We had a Verizon variant apparently get sold on eBay for $500. We've seen cases. Yeah, we have a spec list now, partly from that Verizon eBay listing. And am I missing anything? I feel like there's just so much that's gone on.
It's been like a flood. It's hard to keep track of it all.
It has been. All right, so specs are, anyways, on the back of the box from the Verizon version that was apparently sold on eBay for, again, $500. Now, you can't even buy the 2013 one at full retail for $500, I don't believe, but somebody apparently bought the brand new M8 for $500. Anyway, the specs, according to this box, 2.3 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 801, 32 gig onboard storage with microSD support up to 128 gigabytes, 2 gig RAM, 5-inch Full HD display, which we knew, boom sound, the Duo camera with ultra-pixel, a 5-megapixel front camera, LTE, nano SIM slot, Sense 6.0. Not really a big surprise there, although the camera is apparently the same 4 ultra-pixel camera, just with a second sensor in there. So the front camera is 5 megapixel and the rear is 4 megapixel. I just find that really, really odd. I know it's ultra-pixel and there's a difference there, but
yeah.
So have you confirmed for sure that it is 4 megapixel only?
I don't know that that's been officially confirmed.
No, and that wasn't in the sales guide leak either.
Right. Well, and it said it was what did it say? 2 microns and then f-stop 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So we got some of that, but yeah, for some reason it didn't have megapixels on there, which kind of ties into the whole ultra-pixel BS.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think that's been fully confirmed. I think we've just seen a couple of people with knowledge of the device, if you will, say that. So, but it could be different. I really hope it's different. I don't want 4 megapixel resolution photos. Just I feel anyway are way too small. So that's specs. Let's see. The sales guide, which I believe came out of Telstra, which is an all Australian carrier. Eric, I think you had this. What was really
Yeah.
good in there? There was some motion stuff with your phone asleep. What else was in that thing?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're trying to do a lot what the Moto X did with interacting with your phone while it's asleep. It's got you can tap to wake it up. You can slide across. There's a bunch of different motions that you can do while the phone's on, but there's a lot of interaction that you can do while it's off as well. So,
Okay.
I mean, it looks like they're kind of capitalizing off of everybody enjoying the active display on the Moto X. At least that's what it seems like so far.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they called it motion launch,
Yeah.
which allowed you. Oh no, wait, that was to answer your phone. What was the other thing called? Maybe that is what it was called.
I
Oh
think
yeah,
the whole
package.
system. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can answer your phone without actually touching answer. Although hasn't that been on Galaxy phones for like 3 years? Some other stuff. They're big photo editing tools with the camera. So the camera is called the Duo Ultra Pixel. Is that what it is? No. The camera Duo, the Duo camera
Yeah, Duo
with
camera.
Ultra Pixel. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that you can refocus things after the fact, which both Sony and Samsung are doing with one camera, but HTC needs two.
Well, but maybe we'll, we might be able to see a little bit more. I mean, I imagine if they're doing anything similar to what Sony and Samsung are doing with One, then that could mean more focus points, which would be helpful. So, and I don't know, do we have? I'll have to see. But I know like having 2 microns on it. So the iPhone 5S is 1.5 microns. So regardless of this megapixel size, the sensor size is obviously substantial. So I mean, if that's in both cameras, which presumably it is, like presumably they're identical, that could be pretty crazy. Like that could be a pretty nice camera.
Yeah, we don't really know, I
gonna
guess, if
need
it's
the
2 ultra pixel cameras that are the same. I guess we don't really know, right?
I don't know how else they would have the multiple focus points. Like, I mean, you could.
Well, I think a couple of reports said that one's their regular ultra pixel, and the other one is sort of it's basically like a zoom lens. It's like the term is escaping me. It'll essentially let you zoom in and out of things without seeing
telephoto.
Yes, it's like a telephoto lens, basically. At least that's what people have said, but again, camera stuff is all that's not really confirmed here, so we don't know.
Right, but maybe that's how they're able to get like extended out focus points.
Right. So I don't know. The camera is kind of the mystery now that we're really waiting to see, and I guess all the software stuff that was sort of hinted at in this sales guide.
Right, and most of the, at least for the software, with like being able to double tap it to wake and things like that, that's pretty much just bringing it and the being able to talk to it. Kind of like what is it called, Moto Active or whatever. That's kind of bringing it on par with all the other flagships. That's good to see. So I think the big, at least for me, the big question is, okay, how good is this camera going to be? Because even though the original one had a decent camera, it definitely had some issues. And honestly, 4 megapixel, if all you're doing is shooting Instagram pictures, that's fine. You don't need anything bigger than that.
Right.
It's just the size, it's just the size of it all blown up, and people never look at their photos all blown up. If you're going to print your photos anything bigger than that, you should use a regular camera. So,
right.
I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing if it was still 4 megapixels. If it's got a really good sensor on there, the megapixel size isn't that important unless you're like really, really small.
Yeah, with that smaller resolution, you can't zoom on anything or crop anything because there's just no detail, which is the issue I was running into with it, which drives me nuts. But if you're just sharing on Facebook and you're not zooming and cropping, or you're on Instagram, it's still probably okay. Let's see. We saw cases. So EvLeaks leaked cases, which they look sort of like rubberized flip cases, and they have a whole bunch of holes in the front that show time and apparently weather icons or something. I would imagine you can access that then by doing that double tap or some sort of motion thing, hopefully, to do that. Because if that's the case and it's not always showing that information, and you have to press the power button to see it, that seems like really stupid to me. I don't know. We'll see. So we got cases. What else do we get? Well, we saw a dummy unit that had Verizon branding on it, but
I actually really like the look of those cases. I think.
yeah, they're not bad. I just hope they, have some functionality that doesn't require me to press the power button.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they can like fine tune the software to, work well with the cases. Kind of sense as soon as they're on.
Well,
But I think they look kind of cool.
I'm thinking software is going to be a big play here for HTC. Just after looking, the phone body looks a lot like the original. The original wasn't necessarily all that successful. So they added this dual camera, and that's fine. The processor, they got a little upgrade there. So it's got to be software stuff. They got to do something to make it stand out because of software, and maybe it is because they're using Moto X like stuff, and the camera experience will be really incredible. I don't know. So far, a lot of it looks the same. But I also feel like there's stuff that. So I don't know if we haven't talked about this yet, right? That Eric and I fully believe that almost all these leaks. I won't say all of them. Almost all these leaks are just planned at this point, since HTC has no marketing budget. It all just seems too weird that every big leak that came out, other than the stuff from EvLeaks, because that stuff's not planned. Like the spec list was missing, and people would only say so much and show certain things like the camera and boom sound and a quick look.
They're all very buzzword heavy leaks.
They were.
Nothing really that we've seen from a lot of other phones coming out. And I was telling Kellen, it's free marketing.
Yep.
I mean, we're covering it because it's what we do and people want to know, but HTC knows that, so.
Great strategy.
Yeah, for a company that has no money and needs to get their product everywhere, I mean, you might as well play the leak game, get people talking about it all the way up until the release. What do you guys think about this thought that they may, on the day they announce it, they may say phone's available next week? Any chance they do that? Samsung took a month or a month and a half or something. It'll be April before Galaxy S5. But HTC, we've seen, this eBay listing is retail packaging on a Verizon unit. And then in one of the other leaks was a T-Mobile version that was all loaded up with bloatware and looked like a fully working model. Is there any chance HTC goes, all right, here's our new phone, and you can buy it next week? And then they've done all this, free marketing leak stuff all the way up into it. Maybe they do something crazy like that. I don't know.
I think it's totally possible.
Yeah.
I'd be very impressed.
I mean, it would definitely give them an advantage. They'd launch ahead of the Galaxy S4 and the new, not 4, sorry, Galaxy S5. And I think the iPhone is rumored to be launching relatively soon also, right? So.
I've been waiting for an Android company to do this because, Apple's been doing this for a while with the iPad or whatever, at the end of their announcement. Not for every one of them, but, they can say for some of them, hey, go online right now and we're starting to take orders.
Yeah, well, they've done it for every major product. They didn't do it for the original iPhone because they wanted to hide it until they could get it through FCC, so that was 6 months. And then this last iPad was until December for the iPad mini with Retina. So
I think
that was like a couple
would
months.
impress a lot of people if they could pull that off. I think it would look very good on them, if they could say, hey, and I think that fits into this marketing scheme that they're doing. If we're calling this a marketing scheme, this leak game that they're playing, you want to capitalize on that as fast as possible. So if they're just going to play these leaks right up until the announcement, and then when they're announced, everybody's all hyped up about it before they, conference even ends where they announce it, they can say, yeah, and you can have it in your hands next week. I think that'd be a pretty smart move.
Yeah, and of course, the lack of competition would presumably help sales a little, but.
Yeah, I think it would be smart of them to get out before Samsung can, if possible. When I heard that Samsung was doing their announcement of the Galaxy S5 and it was going to be before HTC, the initial thought was, yeah, they're just screwed. But if they could somehow do it and get the phone out a week, right, like the week before, Samsung's so big, they'll be marketing the Galaxy S5 so heavily, probably leading up to the launch. I don't know that HTC, it'll help HTC, but it might help them a little bit. I mean, you can't be after. I don't think, if you're in their position anymore, you can't be after Samsung. You have to be first.
Well, no, but I think they kind of lucked out with Samsung announcing early but releasing late. So everybody already knows what Samsung has. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what HTC has. So if there's anybody that's hesitant about getting either another Samsung phone or their first Samsung phone, I would at least be. I mean, they don't have any choice but to wait for it. So that's kind of nice for, because normally if you want to, you kind of wait till all the major flagships come out and you make your decision or whatever. If you're sitting on an upgrade or if you just want to throw the money down, but this will kind of give, I think, them going after. I mean, sort of, even though we've had the majority of it leaked, could give HTC an advantage if they're able to get it out in time. If they announce and then there's another month, then they're screwed again. But this could give them a small chance to get ahead a little bit. And
I think they're also cashing in on the, there was a little bit of grumbling when the S5 was announced. Oh, it's an S4S, or it's not really that big of an upgrade. Right. And Wade County pointed out in the chat room just now that this is all geared toward geeks and that consumers don't have any idea about this phone. But I think that Samsung has really brought Android into the same level as iPhone, and you're starting to get the everyday consumer, who can tell the difference between the iPhone that they have in their hand and the new one that's coming out. And I think that Samsung's slowly getting to that level. So I don't know, maybe that's just me though.
Yeah, I think, Ron, I like that idea that HTC has this whole month leading up, now that Samsung was sort of delayed the whole launch, that they can maybe sneak in on that. You notice that Samsung doesn't necessarily have a whole bunch of buzz right now. Every week they're releasing an official 8-minute long hands-on or something to try to keep that going on their own little blogs and stuff. But yeah, I was surprised that they announced it at MWC and then waited a month and a half, because I think I guess I can't remember last year. Maybe they took another month last year too. It seemed like they were faster, but maybe not. I just don't like this idea of announcing something and then waiting a month and a half. But I guess before we used to get Bionics at CES that weren't launching until August, so I guess a month and a half's not too bad.
Yeah, well, but that's the problem you have when you announce that early, is you got to try and keep the hype going. It's not. It's a dangerous game to play. I am confused why they decided to do that instead of, they've left Mobile World Congress, started doing their own events, and then go back to that. It just seems very strange to me. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it's a strategy that Apple's been using really well. They've been able to get the production in line before they announce it. So where it's only, it's available for order that day, shipping within a week or two. And it's worked really well for them. So I've been waiting for an Android company to do that, and I still, now that we're talking about it, I still find it incredibly stupid that nobody has figured that out yet.
Right. I thought Samsung was getting close, but yeah, then this year they went MWC, and then they said a month and a half, and you can probably buy the phone. With HTC though, the new one I believe we've seen both the AT&T and Verizon variants go through the FCC. So, not that necessarily means it's coming right now, but they showed up at the FCC within, let's see. Well, we had Verizon's on March 3rd, AT&T's on the 20th of February, and then the Galaxy S5 didn't get there, or at least any of the documents revealed, until March 7th. So, maybe they really are going to go, here's our phone, you can buy it next week, and that would be awesome. I'm with you, Eric. I would really wish an Android OEM would get on that. Yeah, so I think that's mostly it. Is there any other thoughts on the HTC One? What do you guys think after seeing all this stuff? Does the phone look awesome? Better than the Galaxy S5? Tempting anyone?
I'm definitely more interested in it than I am in the S5. Yeah. So I'm mostly interested to see how the camera performs. So that's going to be, especially for anybody that's got that has like the Moto X or is tempted to get the Moto X. Like, I think that's kind of demonstrated that cameras are important for people. Like you can get a lot of other things really, really, really right and still fill in the market. And I think that is a key differentiator. I mean, that's every single review that praised the Moto X also damned it for its bad camera. So if they can get out a device that looks good, that's recognizable and distinct, which is also another, it's another big thing that Samsung hasn't really been able to use, is it's a recognizable device, but it doesn't really stand out. I think that is important for some people to have a device that says, hey, I've got this device, and either being able to personalize it like the Moto X, or having it be distinguished, because people like being able to show off that they've got a new phone. And you can't really do that if you've got a phone that looks identical to the last two.
This new one isn't going to be mistaken for an S5 easily. You're going to have that faux leather back as opposed to the brushed aluminum.
Oh, God.
Well, and even from the other one, because of the two cameras, it's immediately distinguishable. So
Yeah.
I don't think it looks great, but it does definitely distinguish it.
Yeah, the whole two-camera look is not really all that pretty. I like this newer one because it's a little more rounded. I think we talked about that in another show that some of you guys did and didn't like it. I kind of like the new rounded look. I think it might hold better in your hand, but I'm still a little worried about the size of it. The HTC One last year was so tall that I thought it was hard to use.
This one is looking just as tall.
Yeah, it is. So I'm a little worried about that. And the S4, I remember, was really easy to hold in hand because they made the body so compact. The S5 is a little bit bigger, so I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited though. I feel like we've been waiting for a new phone for so long to come out. Like, we got the Nexus 5, and it was good, except the camera was terrible. And since then, we've been waiting for the next big thing. The next big thing.
Oh no!
Don't do that.
I really didn't mean. I did not mean to do that.
Samsung has infiltrated your brain.
Seriously, they have.
The
but
show
so
is sponsored by.
yeah, right at the bottom. Sponsored by Samsung. So yeah, I'm just ready for both of these guys to come out with these phones so we can finally get something and test something and play with something and talk about which is awesome, which isn't awesome, all that stuff. That's the fun part of what we do, and we haven't been able to do it for a while. So, yeah. All right. Any last words on the Mate 1 2014 all new HTC everything?
Hashtag
One up. Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about this? Is totally not. This is off the script and everything. You guys want to talk about the OnePlus One? Have you guys followed this thing at all?
Yeah, the cyanogen one.
I thought that was an ad campaign from HTC for a very long time.
I thought it was too.
No, they're just a company even smaller than HTC, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, if you can believe that.
Yeah. With good ads, they're
a
good.
startup with former HTC executives, right? Or am I thinking of the wrong company?
No, it's
Oppo.
No. Yeah, okay. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's former Oppo guy started this company called OnePlus, and they're making their first phone, which is called the One, and CM. It will run CM. So the OnePlus One, because we don't have enough devices called One.
Isn't the Oppo N1? Isn't that the former?
Yep. There's Oppo N1. There's the Xbox One. There's the HTC One and the all-new HTC One. I think we'll probably just keep going. There's probably more and more of these ones.
Xbox One.
Yeah. So it's just briefly, they called it this phone that's going to change the way design is, and it's going to have really high-end specs but be affordable, and it's going to run CM and all this good stuff. And so they've been teasing pieces of specs as we go along. Like every couple of days they give us a new one. So it's got a 5.5-inch display in a body that's as big as a phone that has a 5-inch display. It's got a Snapdragon 800. It's got a 3100 milliamp hour battery. What else? Am I missing something? Oh, it's going to have Moto X-like voice control or something. But we still don't know what it looks like.
I mean, didn't we hear all this, phone changing stuff about the Oppo N1 leading up to that, and then that was just
they
announced it in China at 3 in the morning our time, and it's dead.
Yeah, so this will probably be similar. It supports a whole bunch of LTE bands, both T-Mo and AT&T. So you could probably buy it or import it, bring it here or something. I doubt it's going to be tied to any sort of carrier, but we'll see. Okay, yeah, it's another signage mod.
Don't announce it at 3 in the morning when all of America is asleep.
They will. They will.
Well, it probably isn't a phone that's super significant to the States, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they probably just realized they can't sell it here, and they could sell it in China probably for cheap, and people will buy it like crazy.
Yep.
So, all right, cool. Just quickly then, AT&T has apparently already lit up their LTE Advance network in a bunch of markets, or several markets, Chicago being one of them, and the Galaxy S5 will be the first to take advantage. In case that means anything to anyone. In case anyone's in Chicago, or I'd imagine New York, San Francisco. Well, maybe not San Francisco. New York at least. Probably a couple places in Texas, since AT&T's big in Texas. LTE Advance, what are the speeds there? Theoretical speeds of 110 megabits per second. Fun stuff. They're the first.
I thought Verizon was going to be the first to get that up. Or
I thought they might be first too, but no. Apparently AT&T's already doing it. It hasn't told anyone because the Galaxy S5 is the only phone. Yeah, I mean, I think carriers partly have been waiting for devices because you could launch that network, but if nothing could take advantage of it. That's why AT&T's not really talking about it, because nothing could take advantage of it except a hotspot. So they'll wait.
I mean, there have been haven't there been S4 variants that support LTE Advance, though? I just don't think they've been brought stateside. So
it's true. Yeah, there were a couple that were LTE Advance, but yeah, none of them were partnered up here, because AT&T probably would have been the only one, and they already had 4 variants of the S4 or something like that. The active, that stupid camera, and who knows what else.
They talked about bringing it.
It's getting a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it had a Snapdragon 800 too, I think, right? So
yeah, probably. It probably did. So let's see. We asked, and it's not like we have insider information on this or anything, but we asked people if the Nexus 5 came to Verizon, would they buy it? And like 50% of the people that answered said yes. I don't want to say that's surprising, but do you guys think that's just because Verizon folks haven't had a Nexus phone for so long, or because they feel burnt by the Galaxy Nexus? Is that what it is?
It's a combination of both of those reasons, right there.
I was just kind of surprised. I mean, it's been out for a while, and you've got the S5 and the new One coming, and people would still go for the Nexus 5. I don't know that I personally would. Well, I guess that's tough to say because I have one, so it's not really fair.
If they improved the hardware, I mean the camera specifically, maybe if they came out with a slightly better model, reworked.
Yeah, the camera's still terrible. I mean they've released an update with 4.2 or whatever that was. It's still not good. So phone's good, just the camera. It's kind of like the Moto X, like Ron keeps referring to. The phone's really good, but the camera's still terrible. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. Just want to toss that out there real quick. 50% of the people that answered said, yep, they would still buy the Nexus 5 if it came to Verizon right now instead of...
I would buy those people.
Yeah. Interesting.
I wonder what... didn't Google say they were working with Verizon on a couple of projects specifically for this year? I don't know. It's probably BS, but...
They did say that. And part of the reason I threw the poll out there is because we've had a couple of people email in to say, and they got their information from Verizon tech support, which we don't ever necessarily believe. But they were these people anyway said they were telling Verizon they were leaving because they don't have the Nexus 5 and some other stuff, and at least a couple of reps said just give us another month or something like that. That's
what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily know to take that hint as the Nexus 5's coming in the next month, but it could be just give us another month, we'll give you a discount. Who knows? But anyway, so we just thought it was interesting, thought we'd ask. But yeah, Verizon and Google are apparently working on something. We just don't know what.
Maybe it's just another Chromebook Pixel.
Probably.
Exactly.
Which
I don't know how their relationship is after the debacle that was the new, Nexus 7.
I still have this head canon that they don't talk to each other after that. They just hate each other.
Well,
after there's been like 30 things, like they hate each other.
Yeah.
Well, the new Nexus 7 is now there. They finally did their approval and all that. That was a month or so ago, right? So I don't know. Maybe they've worked some of their stuff out.
I mean, how long has Hugo Barra been gone from Google?
It's been a while.
He's the one that introduced he did the whole with 4.3 and introduced the new Nexus 7, saying it's going to be on Verizon.
That was in what, June or July or something like that.
I don't even remember anymore. Yeah,
it was a while.
How long ago? What? Yeah.
Yeah, the new model's coming in like 4 months.
Yeah, it's such a joke.
And they're selling it on contract.
Yeah, which is even more audacious. Before we move on, though, Eric, you said that you'd be, if the Nexus 5 did come out on Verizon, you'd be interested in getting it?
Yeah.
Why is that? Are you dissatisfied with your Moto X?
No. it's just, and I think Kellen's question earlier is a viable one. You know, do you feel spurned by the Galaxy Nexus? I mean, that phone was great when it came out, but it just fell off the wagon so quickly. You know, it had no support whatsoever. Just kind of, you know, so I do kind of feel gypped a little bit. And I would definitely give Nexus another run because, you know, I've, you know, kind of grown up with tinkering with my phone and that kind of stuff. And while I don't really do it anymore, it's because I don't really have to. But if I had the choice, I would seriously consider it over, you know, the S5 or the all-new one. I mean, I'm a person that has to, like, kind of keep them hand in hand before I make a decision. So this is all just kind of theoretical anyway. But, yeah, I would definitely give it a pretty good run for HTC and Samsung's money.
So what I'm hearing is that you don't care about cameras and phones?
Yeah, and that's another thing.
Wow.
I know Tim is really big on cameras, but I'm like, you know, I kind of just Facebook and Instagram it up, and you know, that's decent enough for me. I do notice that the Moto X, I don't deny the fact that the Moto X's camera is horrible and
is complete garbage and should have never shipped. Is that what you're trying to say? Like it ruins the phone so that nobody should buy it? Is that what you're saying?
But you know, I mean, it's serviceable for me, so it is what it is. I mean, I definitely want a better camera, but
it's not the number one thing.
Yeah, it's not the top of the list on my
Personally, I hardly ever take photos with my phone, so I mean, I don't understand all this animosity towards these devices. But for me, the most appealing thing about
get like a nephew or something, like, or have a kid, like then you'll want to take pictures and you'll care about how they look.
Me.
Maybe I'll take it with my Google Glass. No, personally, I mean, for me, the most appealing thing about the Nexus phones are their off-contract price. If I, well, actually, I just did upgrade the other day to the LG G2. But if I, you know, saw an appealing Nexus phone come out in a year or so, and really, you know, seriously wanted it, then it wouldn't be that much of an investment. You know, I could get it for a relatively inexpensive price and sell my old one probably to cover the cost. So that's what I really like about them, the subsidies.
I think at this point I'm so sick of no one creating like the perfect smartphone. Like it's 2014. We've got crazy processors and 3-4 gig of RAM.
Dude, it's been here for a long time. It's right here.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
The chat is going to explode.
We're gonna get dust.
I'm gonna assume that was the Purple Razor.
Yeah, I got an Apple skin for my Purple Razor.
So it would be hard for me now that I've used the Nexus 5, reviewed it, and the Moto X. So it'd be hard for me to tell someone once the Galaxy S5 and the new HTC One come out to go with either the Moto X or the Nexus 5 over those, just knowing it. But I guess I would say, do you, like Ron just said, do you care about the camera? And if they said not all that much, I would say Nexus 5 or Moto X would be fine. Well, Moto X is starting to age a little bit now, so you may not want to lock in on a contract on that now, but the Nexus 5 would still probably be fine. But yeah, I would say it. And to tell you the truth, when people ask me what phone they should buy, I do kind of ask them. I'm like, well, do you want a really good camera, or does that not really matter? And over the last year, if people say that, I'm usually like, get the Galaxy S4. Has a great camera. So with the S5 and the One coming out, I would ask that. And personally, I would really test. Well, I'm going to test both cameras to decide, because I'll probably switch to one of those. And I think it's just because I'm so frustrated that all these phones keep coming out with terrible cameras.
Yeah, it's like everybody, in the drawing room of, you know, the sequels for their phones, they, you know, put all the specs up on the whiteboard, and then they're like, all right, which one are we going to erase? And they all take a vote, and then they just walk up there and erase the camera, and then there you go, that's your Moto X.
Seriously.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
I mean, maybe
Motorola's
keep
been terrible
prices down
for a while.
But at some point, you got to figure out some kind of production to, like, fix that problem. I just don't get it either.
Well, apparently Motorola thought everyone cared more about having a bamboo back than a decent camera, and that did not work. That did not work.
Well,
you can only choose one, guys. What do you want to do?
And a great camera, Moto X would have blown everybody away, but
Yeah, if the Moto X had a great camera, I would. Well, I'm not a good example because I change phones all the time, but it would be the phone. I would tell people to go buy it. I don't know that other than tech guys that love stock Android and all the little like tricks and stuff you can do, I tell them to go get it because it's their kind of phone. But for a lot of people, I don't necessarily recommend the Moto X because of the camera. And like I just said, I asked them, "Do you want a good camera?" And then I just automatically rule it out, which is kind of sad because it is a really good phone, and I use it still to this day. It's my daily phone. And then if I need a camera, I grab a different phone, or I grab an actual camera. As embarrassing as that is. So, well, yeah. So we'll know in a month what the cameras are like on these new guys. I'd imagine they're probably going to be really good. I think we know the Galaxy S5 is going to have a really good camera no matter what. But Ron, yeah, we'll see with this new HTC One if this dual thing.
What we call the wild card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then hopefully Motorola learns with their next one.
There's no way they will.
There's no way, no. They use the same terrible sensors from who knows. I can't even remember what the company is, but it sucks.
Like my Droid 2 takes as good pictures as the Moto X does.
It probably does.
I'm not kidding. Like I can get side by side. I can see if I can find it. I'm gonna take some side by sides like I did with my iPhone and.
Oh, mine is.
Ugh, just garbage.
Does it take better pictures than the Palm Pre?
Ooh, the Palm Pre has a pretty bad. I have the Pre too. It has a pretty bad camera.
Oh, the Pre too. I think we need to do like a camera shoot out there.
With the Pre, yeah.
Better than the Pre
phones. Oh, that would be amazing.
Poor Moto X. All right, let's move out of there. Speaking of Nexus, though, there's a rumor floating around that LG is making another Nexus or the next Nexus phone again, and then also apparently the smartwatch that Google may someday introduce. Also, on that note, Google is going to release an Android wearable SDK within the next week or two, so they are actually probably going to make some sort of smartwatch, though they said we probably won't have hardware for a while because they just want to get feedback on the SDK and all that. But LG making a Nexus, they're the next Nexus phone, and also a smartwatch. We asked, and let me just pull that up real quick. We asked who everyone wanted to make the next Nexus, and as usual, they said Motorola, and then HTC was in second, then Samsung, and then LG was kind of way down there. So this would be LG's third Nexus in a row. Anybody okay with LG making another Nexus? Are you ready for someone else to get a chance? Do you guys all just want it to be Motorola? Any thoughts on that, if it's LG?
Well, if Motorola does it, then the camera will be about as good as it's always been. So there's that.
Well, which is weird, right? Because LG has the G2 camera I really like, and Kyle, you can probably weigh in on that more, but it's actually a really good camera, so I don't know why the next...
I was going to say, I'm not sure why OIS got the cut on the Nexus, but if they integrate some of that optical image stabilization and their next Nexus, then it would be great.
No, fantastic. I think it does have OIS. It just sucks.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's strange. Yeah. I don't know why the huge disparity between the LG G2 OIS and that one, because they're essentially like the same hardware-wise.
Well,
I don't know.
Since the Galaxy Nexus, there's been more and more disparity between flagship hardware.
Mm-hmm.
So Nexus One was almost the exact same thing as the Incredible, and Nexus S was almost the same thing as Galaxy S. Once you get to Galaxy Nexus, is where it starts getting a lot more differentiated.
Oh, they just started cutting. I mean,
they really
budgeting lower, I guess, for the devices.
Yeah, well, because they're if you look consistently, well, not necessarily consistently, but costs started becoming more of an issue. So, and I think when you look at the Galaxy Nexus compared to it was the S2 at the time would have been the flagship.
Yeah, it was a dumbed down version of the S2.
Yeah, which is weird. And then we saw the
S720p display. Like they did up.
There were some upgrades in it. There were, significant enough to where you can say that the S2 wasn't really the basis for it. But then the S3 came out not too long after that and just blew it out of the water. So, and that's the problem, like at least from Google's perspective, with having these manufacturers make these phones, is that it's in their incentive or in their best interest to make them worse than whatever their next flagship is going to be.
Right.
So,
well, even if the new Nexus smartphone got last year's LG OIS tech that they put in the G2, that would be fine, I think, for most people.
I voted Motorola, and partly because we're on Droid Life and we exist because of the OG Droid, but if I take my homerism out of that, I just want to see what the other companies have in mind for a Nexus device. You know, that's what it started off being. It was, all right, we're going to pass this around, and you know, we're going to get each company's view of what a Nexus would be. And we've seen what HTC can do, and we've seen what Samsung can do, and now LG. And I just want to see Motorola. I want to see Sony. And then at that point, once we've exhausted all the OEMs, if we started redoing it again, then more power to you. But the fact that we're just leaning on LG right now is it's boring.
How much say do the OEMs really have, though, when it comes to Nexus devices? I mean,
well, they all bid for it.
Yeah, but doesn't Google dictate specific hardware things? I know that's the reason that the Galaxy Nexus had like a TIO map in it,
Yeah.
Well, they get to specify some things, but it's also a matter of, my guess, especially now, is, okay, you guys show us what your flagship hardware that you want to present to us is, and then we'll pick the lowest bidder, whoever can do it for the cheapest.
That's probably part of it. I know they, I believe it was with this new Nexus 7, I think maybe Hugo talked about how they, maybe it was Sundar after the fact, said that how they got with Asus and within a month or something like that, just put two small teams together and just hammered it all out, and then we're like, okay, here's our device. So I don't know if they do that with phones. I would hope that
Stretched it on napkins, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously phones take much longer to do than a tablet, but yeah,
Well,
they've never really fully let us in on that whole process.
Asus leading up to that had been planning that the MIMO, whatever it was.
That mysteriously disappeared from
they
off
announced
the face of the earth, basically.
and then it disappeared, and then the Nexus reappeared. So
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of bored with LG. So Eric, I think you said that. I want somebody new.
The Nexus 5 is a good phone, other than the camera. I'm not knocking it. It's just I want to see somebody else. I want to have the variety. I want to say, Android is like, yeah, we're all about choice and including everybody, and we're not just one carrier and blah 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 blah. But LG for the third time.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is, though, is like Samsung is going to have zero interest in doing it because they don't, they have it doesn't make sense for them to do that. Motorola probably can't afford it. HTC probably can't afford it. Who does that leave? That leaves LG.
Yeah.
So I mean, nobody else can really lose money on that because that's what happens with Nexus devices, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So who else is going to do it? So you don't have that many other options unless somebody's just going to blow the company on doing a Nexus device.
Yeah.
So
it's just too bad. I would like to see HTC do another one. Obviously,
I'd love to see them do another one.
Yeah, but because HTC, right? They did the original, the Nexus One, another one.
Yeah. Well, and they had what was it? Was it the Magic? I think it was a variant of it, but there was that other original. Well, and they did the G1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did the G1,
and they did, I think, at least one of the original concept devices.
I think so.
HTC has been with them for a very long time.
Right.
So, and now it's just such a bummer to see them die.
It is actually kind of a bummer to see them just die. Oh, poor HTC. I think we bring that up every show. We need to start placing bets on who's going to buy them because there's not that many companies left.
I'm telling you, they're in a good position if they can get this upcoming launch right. I think they can make a big
but they have to do that and the next 5.
But
survive.
I mean, we gotta hope, man. We gotta put our faith.
BlackBerry has been hoping for a half a decade.
Yeah, BlackBerry's been dying. They didn't even call the new one the One Up. I don't know what I'm gonna do about them.
It's a failure because they didn't call the One Up.
I gave them everything they needed, and they just spit in my face.
For free,
even though they're randomly using hashtag
just
One
a
Up.
hashtag. Come on, guys. At least tag me. That's my idea.
Yeah.
HTC.
All right, so this Android wearable SDK thing, Google's fully buying into wearables, and it's an Android SDK. So they want to apparently put wearable Android devices in your jackets or something. I think Sundar was talking about, and he said watches aren't the only thing we're going to do. Obviously, you have glass. Who knows what else Google will come up with? But wearables. A couple weeks, we'll have SDK and their vision of where wearables should go. Apparently, will be along with the presentation. No hardware for a while, but okay. I'm
I
so
couldn't be
wearable
less
now.
interested personally. Yeah.
I'm so wearable
Exactly.
now.
They,
I
they
have.
pretty much have to just figure out how to get Google Now into a watch. You know, we had that mock-up from a long time back. Do you remember that circle mock-up that they had with the Google Now cards?
Yeah, that was
Just
awesome.
do that. That was
Are you
awesome.
seriously gonna want to talk to your watch though?
I don't
No,
want
I'm
to
not
talk to
gonna
my
talk
watch.
to
I
it,
don't want
but
to take
if
calls
if
on my
it just
watch. I
brings
want to
up
talk to it.
if it brings up relevant cards, you know, weather, you know, text message, hey, oh, hey, the Blazers game's on right now, like, and I can just swipe it away or tap on it to get the play-by-play. That's all. That's literally all they need to do. And that's what I think they're gonna do. I mean, that's what I hope they're gonna do. Google
I really
Now is
don't
a
think they
But
know.
you've got to be able to, if you're going to do that, like presumably you'd have to have a color screen. Like I doubt
And
they're
that's
going to use
yeah.
like talks.
Battery.
There's battery issues. They're probably not going to use Mirasol. So they'd have to use an LCD. They should. So they'll have to use an LCD, which means they're going to have a stupid power button, so you can turn the stupid thing off, so you can have it last for a day. Like there's just and that still, like we've talked about so many times, doesn't deal with input, doesn't deal with the constraints of that space. Like there are so many issues with wearables and what those mean and why they're important and why they're valuable.
But that's why I think that Google Now is a good platform to build off of, because you don't need a lot of input, you know, for that. You just got to swipe, you know, 4 ways and then tap, you know. If it did
right,
that,
but I don't want to have to swipe away on my watch so I can see the stupid time. Like,
well, I mean, you can make a home.
Mirasol. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of writing up my Qualcomm Talk review finally, and it's the best smartwatch because the clock's always on, and it's color, and the battery lasts like a week. It's actually really awesome, except it's like this big on my wrist.
Yeah, see, that's a problem.
I know it is.
Like,
It is a problem. I guess are wearables supposed to be companion devices? Are they supposed to be standalone devices?
No one knows.
No one knows, right?
Well, because they can't. Because here's it. Like they can't be standalone devices because they're not powerful enough, and you can't do input. So they can't be standalone devices. The only input option you have is voice, and there's so many issues with that. Mostly context. Like so, it can't be standalone. Companion just means that you're staring at something before you stare at your phone at some point, so you can actually do something with it. Like nobody, like it's not a real category. You can't do like I still wear my Pebble every single day. It just tells me what time it is. Like that's it.
You don't use it for anything else. You just turn it all off.
It's synced to my phone so that I can get the weather on there when the second hand isn't over it. But like other than that, like that's all it does. Like the reality is, and I wrote about this a while ago, but the reality is like until somebody figures out input, which is impossible to figure out because you can't, like how are you going to type on something that's small? You don't want something bigger. Like it needs to be something else. We need to figure out how we're going to do that. And I think Eric's right, and that's part of what I wrote too, that Google Now could be part of that, especially using location stuff and things like that. But until we get like dramatically improved battery life or better display technology that's small, even that has tremendous problems. So there's just like the fact that Google's coming, like Google number one just seems like another, and we have this too. Like there's just another company coming out with something that isn't great, that doesn't change the game. I think we're all kind of waiting for that. It feels like early smartphone days, where everybody's just throwing crap at the wall and hoping that it sticks. And they can all do lots of things, but it's all super cumbersome. That said, I don't think having something on your wrist is ever going to be anything that's a substantial category that's going to replace or even be anywhere near as significant as smartphones. Like that's just not going to be it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, for people to be throwing resources at things like that because unless somebody has figured something else out that specifically deals with input, I don't see how it can be anything else other than another place to look at notifications that I don't want to have to look at twice.
Right. It's like the industry clearly is seeing shrinking margins, and they need a new product category, and they've tried to create the smartwatch for us, and they're trying to tell us that we need the smartwatch.
Yeah.
But none of us, I don't think, really need the smartwatch.
No.
Just like we don't need Google Glass, just like...
Well, and the reality is, like, eventually a smartphone might die, right? Like, the personal computer seems to be slowly dying and being traded in for smartphones and tablets and things like that, or phablets. So, I mean, eventually there's going to be something else, right? And eventually computing's going to change again. I don't think it's going to be glass, at least in its current implementation, but it might be something like that augments your reality and gives you, it might be stuff that's built in with your car, right? I think the best thing to be looking at is for Google to be building in more with Google Now. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
where you can have something that's a consistent service across all your devices. So you've got something that's telling you all your notifications and everything that you need on your computer, on your phone, on your watch if you want that, in your Google car, like across the board. That's got all your stuff. It syncs. You don't have to look at notifications twice. It's just all built in, and it just works. That makes a lot more sense. I think that seems to be the direction that Microsoft might be looking at going into, especially with their new CEO and where he comes from with servers and services. Yeah, and Cortana. Like we'll just I think that's the future. That's what it'll have to be. It'll be, you'll have multiple devices, and that's the key, is figuring out how to get them to work together so that they're not annoying. And that's really, really difficult. That's a big problem. We haven't ever had anybody try to tackle something that big before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can try and tackle something that big, but we keep running into this physical barrier of we haven't innovated battery technology yet.
No.
We can do all we want, making all of this, but if we can't power it efficiently, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, 2009 was kind of when at least Android got its huge start, right, with the original Droid, and it's now 2014, and I'm still worrying about battery life every single day. There's something wrong.
I mean,
with that.
we're always gonna have to worry about battery life. It's just with the.
I want to worry about it
specs
after
better,
2 days, though, not 12 hours.
With if specs get better, battery life is going to also take a hit. But for if you wanted a low power watch, you can't make it thinner than a certain amount, and it doesn't run for more than 4 hours. Until we get new battery technology, then we're kind of swimming up creek at this point.
Yeah. I really just don't think anyone knows really what wearables are for or supposed to be used with. Maybe Google has this vision. They're supposed to give us the vision. Maybe they'll say something.
I was very surprised to hear them just come out and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have this SDK."
Yeah, you want to know why they're doing that? They were planning on having Motorola do it. We all saw what Motorola was coming out with. They sold Motorola because of it, and now they have to do this instead. They needed to announce something, and this is all they've got left.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're just gonna. I think they've seen everyone else fail in the category so far that they're gonna just announce a vision, and here's our OS that works with it. Since Samsung's trying to put their own OS on it now.
Samsung's doing Tizen crap, so they gotta have something.
Yeah. So now you're gonna take this.
By Tizen, jeez.
But if they at least give us a platform, people can start playing with it, tweaking it. We'll see 15 different Kickstarter campaigns using Google's new wearable SDK. It'll be like the Wild West of wearables, if it's not already.
Hey, if we posted the Hungarian guy whose name I couldn't pronounce if I'd even tried, if he could make that with Google's SDK and their SDK was actually usable, man, he could get a lot of backing off of that.
I don't know.
That solves your input problem.
Many problems, so.
Solves one of the problems. I mean, there's still a bunch
one of the many.
Yeah.
There's battery problems, there's screen problems, there's notifications bothering me constantly problems, there's, hey, does this actually look good so that I want to wear it problems, there's, hey, does this look good on a guy and on a girl?
Good. Okay, you got me there, but that did look good for the watch, though. You got to admit.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh, that concept?
The concept one.
That concept looked really nice, actually. Because it looked like a normal watch.
Yeah.
It looked like a futuristic piece of junk. I have the Pebble Steel here. It's not really that pretty of a watch. It's not at all, and it feels really cheap. There'll be a quick review of that coming up soon as well. Just do not buy it, people. I'm sorry.
Well, it's still probably the best smartwatch, I would think.
It's not saying much.
Well, I still like the Talk. The Talk's my favorite. It really is. As big as it is, it's still probably my favorite. And then it would be Pebble.
Size is a problem, yeah. And if you're going to get a Pebble, even though the steel is, I think, uglier, like the original gets scratched to hell, so you got to get the glass one.
Here it is. Oh, the battery's about to die. Oh, it says 20%. Yeah, I mean, it's like a weird square, and it's just like the metal just
looks
it's
like
kind of
Moto
sharp, and it just
Motorola did that design 3 years ago.
It's not really nice. And this is the black matte. Maybe the stainless is better, but I kind of doubt it. It just feels cheap, and it's $250. I mean, you could go to Macy's and buy a Michael Kors watch for $250. It's a hell of a lot nicer than that thing. I guess it doesn't do notifications.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. At wearables. Maybe someday somebody will figure out wearables. Maybe it'll be Google in a week. The vision. The vision in a week. Do you guys want to talk about a set-top box from Google? I don't have anything on that.
I mean, there was just the news today that Google acquired that game developer.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I
Game
mean,
developer that had sort of failed or shut down. I really didn't look that much into that, so catch me up on what happened there.
okay, so I'm gonna have to look the story up. I don't remember the name of the game developer, unfortunately, but I think it was formed.
Hooligans or something.
Yeah, it was formed by a guy who. What did he work on? I'm not remembering very much of the story. It was just something really, not too interesting, but still what the applications are. Yeah, basically. So I don't know. It was kind of like a startup. The only thing they really produced product-wise was a like Bluetooth controller for Android devices. The neat thing about it was that you could connect multiple controllers to a single device, which I guess is an inherent limitation of Android. Typically, you can only connect to one type of device via Bluetooth. You can't connect multiple types of the same device. So, I mean, I guess obviously that news points to Google building a gaming type multimedia box for your television, which I'm not too excited about, really, especially since I owned one of the original Google TVs, although I'm sure their strategy this time around is going to be a little bit better. I think they're taking a Nexus approach with it. Hopefully, they're going to be in charge of releasing software for it. But I don't know, what is the point when better consoles exist, first of all,
and when the what's it called? The Ouya just massively flopped.
Oh god.
Yeah, so does anyone want these things, really?
Right. So, and just this afternoon, Tim wrote up that an Asus controller or something. Did you guys just mention that was outed? Yeah. Does anyone? Okay. First of all, they're called mobile games for a reason, right? They're meant for small screens, mobile devices, the controls all. Does anyone want a mobile game on a TV?
Yes, if it's like Final Fantasy VII. I mean, that's the truth.
That doesn't count. That's a port, though.
Well, no, but that's the thing. Like, there are definitely times when I have Chrono Trigger for my iPad. I would much rather play that with a controller and have that on my iPad. Like, that would be great,
So if you could if you could stream it from your iPad to a thing with a controller and all that stuff, you would do that.
Yeah.
Well,
and then if I want to, then I could. Well, yeah, but those types of games, like those types of games are very far and few between.
What if you had
the games that you're talking about, though, are not necessarily fit for touch controls. So
right, which is why they need a controller.
That's it. But I mean, why couldn't you just play them on the original console?
Because Super Nintendo is hard to come by now.
Okay, so you're talking ports of old games that you would want to play now. But new stuff that comes out, it's all built for mobile, you know what I mean? Like, mobile games are designed for mobile devices. I don't necessarily know that.
But what if the game changed where you had the expectation that, you can get a cheap controller that works decently enough to where you can play those kinds of games? There are plenty of games that you just simply cannot do on mobile because of the controls.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of games I don't even try playing because of that.
No.
So does that mean you're waiting for Google's vision of games or something?
I don't know. Well, Google's been working on game stuff for a very, very long time. So, I mean, and just haven't released anything for whatever reason. I mean, I think the big issue is if Google can come out with hardware that's affordable, that will make people want to play different types of games. I mean, that's the key issue. It's the same issue with Ouya, like having to map buttons and all that crap for if you want to play any other games outside of the ones that are in the store. Shield has the same sort of issue, so it's like, if they can come up with something that's built into the SDK, and so that you can, whether it's ports of games that people already like, which by the way is a huge deal if you want to get buy-in, because you want to have those games early. People don't normally jump in on a new console for a brand new game. There are some small exceptions, but generally that's not how it works. Then I think that's a great way for them to get a lot of buy-in early on. Hey, you want to get a bunch of old games that you haven't played before that you really are hard to come by in a lot of places, and you can carry it anywhere. So if you want to pick it up with touch controls, you can, and keep playing wherever you're at. That's a big deal, especially big, huge games like that, like a Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger, any kind of game like that. You're going to be playing that over a long time. If I'm able to pick it up exactly where it's at, and maybe the experience is a little bit worse because I'm on my phone or something, but I can still play it for a bit, and then jump back in on it when I'm at home with my big screen and my controller. That's kind of an awesome experience that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea a lot, but obviously no one's even coming close to doing anything like that, right?
Well, Sony is close, kind of, with the some of their stuff they're doing with the Vita and this. What was the Steam? No, well, the Shield. Shield had the stuff with Steam, right?
Yeah. So Shield trying to be, but no one cared, and so
because you had to be local, so that isn't super helpful.
Right.
I know this isn't as convenient a solution as you're describing, but I don't know. Couldn't you do exactly what you said with? I know, and also this isn't strictly speaking legal, but couldn't you just put a couple emulators on your phone? Hook your phone up via MHL to your TV and attach a couple Bluetooth controllers, and I mean, wouldn't it be the same idea?
It'd be similar. There's big latency issues.
Okay, the latency issues I could see.
Especially if you're doing anything where that timing matters. So. Yeah,
I'm not convinced. Sorry, Eric. I'm just not convinced you need to spend an extra $100 to $200 on a set-top box when, much of the functionality is basically there in your phone right now, or could be.
Right, but that solves that latency problem. And if you've got a box on there and it's got access to Google Play, so you've got basically a Nexus Q that you can actually buy and works. So it's got all your content on there. They've got the game syncing kind of sort of figured out now. Like, there's all sorts of potential for them to do that. And if they've got these games on there that people actually want to play instead of some BS game that somebody made in 10 minutes, like Flappy Bird, like, I don't need to play that on my TV. But if it's something else that's like a bigger game that I actually like that again gives space for developers to start, whether it's third party or major developers to start making games that you can play all over the place. Like there's just so many potential opportunities there.
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it more, it's like Shield and NVIDIA is kind of the only one because they have what's their new cloud gaming system called? Those can't think of what it's called, but they announced it along with Shield initially at last year's CES, I believe. And essentially, you can play, full PC or console games in the cloud anywhere, and then you could also play them potentially through Shield. I guess they're kind of the only ones doing it, but I don't know that anyone's adopted it or it hasn't rolled out enough. I can't think of what their server thing was called. If Tim was here, he would know.
Wasn't it Grid?
Yes, Grid. That's exactly what it was. So I guess they're kind of coming close to doing something similar to what you're talking about, Ron, but I just don't know that it's rolled out or anyone adopted any of it. It just seems like with cloud gaming and that whole idea, you should be able to play like something on an Xbox, and then hopefully that game would be available on a mobile device. You could continue playing there. Obviously, mobile devices aren't powerful enough.
Yeah, well, you'd be stuck with the Windows on there too. So like Google is like the only. Sony could possibly do it, right? Because they've got the PlayStation and they've got their Sony devices, and if they ever, expanded out PlayStation support on their phones, maybe came out with another Xperia Play, they could be positioned to do that. But Google, even more than Nvidia, Nvidia, if they're going to do it, then you'd have to have a phone with a Tegra chip, right? And I think everybody kind of hates that. We've all kind of seen the problems with that, where you'd have a Tegra version of a game and then a non-Tegra version of a game. Google is positioned to be able to do that all over the place, really. They have the opportunity to do that, and they've got the ecosystem that people have paid into. So people are already used to paying Google. Credit card's already in there. It's like all those little details matter a lot, especially if you're launching something new like that. They've got titles already ready to go. Like, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I still think it'll be a hard sell for developers. I'm sorry, Eric.
No, it's fine. There's a reason why the Ouya didn't do well. It's because they didn't, they kind of took for granted how much work and history that Sony and Microsoft have in the Xbox and the PlayStation. Anyway.
Well, and they also took for granted how much work people would be willing to do to put it in to get the stupid thing to work right? Like, that's another massive issue that they didn't care about. Yeah, but to Kyle to address the issue with developers too, like they've already got developers in the Play Store. So if it's just tied in with Play Store, all those games would theoretically be good to go.
Well, they would have to rework them.
Yeah.
For one, I mean, but
so that's not a lot of hard work. They've already got the software buttons mapped out. You map them to a controller, you're done.
Well,
Google has a platform.
It depends on the game.
Right.
Yeah, it depends on the game, but if they have launch titles like those big name games that people, like if they can do that, if they can pull that off, that would be a big deal. Squaresoft's already been. Is it still Squaresoft? What are they called now? Square
Enix.
Square Enix. There we go. Yeah. They've been releasing games all over the place, right? If they can imagine Final Fantasy VII launches exclusive on that relaunch of it.
Well, a better
Google console.
The Plague Inc. came out. It's a pretty well-known game in the Play Store. Just got released on Steam under like Plague Inc. HD or something like that. It's a full-fledged PC game, multiplayer, mapped to a different set of controls other than touch, all this kind of stuff. So, the developers can do this. It's just a matter of Google bringing them in and getting them to do it on their service.
Right. And if Ouya was able to say, hey, you can map controller buttons, like that's not going to be difficult to do. So especially for the ports, because they were obviously originally designed for controllers. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. It'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting space to watch, especially with, Amazon, who has reverted to also be bringing in a set-top box, and they bought a game developer too. So.
Yeah, well, and everybody's been interested in the space. Obviously, Apple's been in the space for a while. Google's been struggling to stay in the space, with Schmidt claiming that most TVs will have Google TV in them, and that never happening.
Thank God it didn't happen.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
LG revamping WebOS for TV is obviously a very important space, and figuring out how you can augment that and have a play in there that people are actually going to care about. Like we're seeing that with the Xbox One. Like everybody's trying to get in that space and make a substantial impact. So
it's just like the wearable situation, really. Nobody knows
what
the solution is, right?
Well, the solution is getting people the content they want at a price they want. That's the problem.
Microsoft is pretty close to locking that down.
Unless you have to
Xbox One is a really good all-in-one set-top box right now.
Did you buy one?
No, I've not bought one yet, but it functions very well.
But you have to go through your cable box if you're using regular cable. Like that's a problem.
No,
right,
you can
and
run
you
the
still
cable
have
box through the Xbox One now.
Yeah, but it doesn't work consistently well for pulling up all the content.
Yeah. But it's I'm saying they're not there. They're getting close, though. They're closer.
Yeah, everybody's getting closer, and that's like if somebody can partner with, say, let's pretend that maybe there's only going to be one cable provider sometime soon. Maybe that's a possibility.
Well,
that makes that kind of thing easier,
Time Warner
right?
and Comcast are trying to make that happen.
Right.
I hate the cable industry so much. They are the worst.
Anyway.
Netflix deals now, yeah. All right, let's whip through some apps and games. We normally would do a Q&A, but it's already like 7:15.
Yeah.
Apologies, folks. We're probably skipping Q&A. All right, so Quiz Up, which I believe we talked about maybe last week. Quiz Up's now official on Android. And Eric, are you still the leader?
No, there's this guy. I'm pretty sure he bought like the quadruple XP because I checked one night and I was in the lead, and then he shot up to like level 56 when I woke up. I was like, okay, dude, really? So, no, I'm not. I have some work to do.
Okay. So Quiz Up's out there. It's a trivia game where you can challenge people, friends, whoever, and it's all sorts of fun categories. It's actually a really cool game. It's free. I don't know. Check it out if you haven't played it yet.
It is very fun, very addicting.
Yeah, it's very fun. How long has that been out on iOS, Ron? Quiz Up? It's been a while, right?
A long time, yeah. Months and months.
Okay. The other app I want to talk about, or another app, Milk Music, Samsung's streaming music radio type service, partnered with Slacker, I believe. I did a little write-up on it last week. It's actually a really nice service if you have a Galaxy device, because it's only available on Galaxy devices. Basically, you plug in, you don't have to do anything. You just download, open it up, and start playing music. You can customize stations, pick artists, all this stuff, and it's free, at least for now. Really slick app, really nice. If you have a Galaxy device, feel free to check it out, Milk Music. It's free. Pebble 2.0 is finally official on Android, out of beta. So that means you have the access to the Pebble App Store, and the app's been redone. It actually looks decent. Although on launch day, it was such a terrible experience. It crashed all over. People couldn't update anything. The App Store was junky. It was bad news. I believe they fixed it or tried to. I don't know. It was such a terrible experience. I quit using it right afterwards. How is the iOS App Store, Ron? Is it better? Does it work, or do they not? You have one. Right?
It worked fine for me. So
okay.
on day one. So yeah, but
are they still using? Sorry, are they still using WebView for the Android version? Maybe the iPhone version too. I don't know. iOS version rather. Or is
I'm not
it
sure.
like you have to navigate the App Store using a WebView interface, right? It's not native. That's what I heard, at least.
Well, let me look. Get watch faces.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could look, but I don't think I even have it.
It looks like it's a WebView. Yeah, I mean that's.
No, that's a
obviously
shame.
black
But
and white,
I mean, they're
Yeah, it's not great.
they're a small team, so.
They are.
Yeah, they're growing, but yeah, that's I think, I mean, this is obviously substantially better than what it was before, where you had to go through forums to find random apps. So
Right.
it's a big improvement. And if you've got apps on there and they had updated versions, then it just automatically updates. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That reminds me of what I used to have to do for my old Zune HD when I wanted apps. Brings back some terrible memories.
I never did own.
Yeah, Zune HD. The Zune HD. It had HD radio. That was its gimmick. And an OLED screen, which was unusual in 2009.
That is interesting. I don't even know if I ever used one of those. That was a long time ago.
They were
They were painful.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pebble 2.0, Milk Music, Quiz Up. Ron, do you have a couple you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple. So one of them, I think Tim wrote it up, is called Smash Hit. It's on the Play Store and the App Store, respectively. And they're actually identical in terms of performance too. So I've played through the whole game on my iPhone and iPad, and there's basically kind of 10 levels, and I played through level 4 before the show, 1 through 4. But basically all it is it's constant moving through this world, and there's glass all over the place, and so you're throwing balls at the glass to break it to get through. If you get hit by the glass, you lose 10 balls. If you lose all your balls, then it ends. I think it's $1.99 to save your spots. You can pick up from safe spots. Otherwise, you start from the beginning every single time. And then the 10th level is just like an endless level. But it's a lot of fun. I've been playing it a lot. So it's free on I think, right? I believe it's free on both stores.
It might be, yes. And I believe there's just some in-app purchases, like you mentioned.
Yeah, in-app purchase is to save. Yeah, and you don't need it. I would get it though if you want to, because otherwise you have to start from the beginning. So, but it's a lot of fun, and I was playing it on the Moto X. It performed really, really well. So
it is actually really fun, yeah. And it's from the guys I believe that did. It's from the guys that did Granny Smith, Granny Smith and Sprinkle.
Yes,
those are both great games. So.
Quality. Yeah, they did a really, like, even in the credits, there's glass going through, so if you can still hit.
Oh, really?
Glass through the credits, yeah. They did a good job on it. So that's one, and then the other game that just came out on Android today is Threes. So that's been on iOS for probably a month or two, and what was it called? I think it was Fives was the clone of it on Android.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was a cheap ripoff, but the actual game is here, and that is also insanely addicting. So basically, the way that it works is you've got, I'll see if it's in black and white, but you've got 1s and 2s, and those, if you slide those together to become 3, and then you combine them. So 3 becomes 6, 6 becomes 12, 12 becomes 24, so on and so forth. So you're trying to get a high score. Once you fill up the entire space you have there, then the game is over. So you're just trying to get as high of a score as you can as the tiles add up together. So that is called Threes. I believe it's $1.99 on the Play Store temporarily. Price is going to go up apparently, so I would get that. It's worth the $2.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to have to pick it up, actually. I like addicting games. Let's see what else. Oh, so I believe this app's already been pulled, but there's a game that was released this morning, maybe last night, called Casts Against Humility, which was a Chromecast game that was essentially a copy of Cards Against Humanity. And I believe Cards Against Humanity already told them they better pull it or else, kind of thing, because they. I think they just copied Cards Against Humanity, like all the cards and all the content, and then created this Chromecast game. And I installed on a couple devices just to test it, and it worked really well. If you had a bunch of friends with Android devices and you had a Chromecast home, you could play Cards Against Humanity without the cards. You could just do it using your phones, and it had this really simple UI, and it worked really well. But since it got written up everywhere and went public, because I think it's been in beta maybe for a little while, I believe they were already told to pull it and take it down and create all their own cards and show no reference to Cards Against Humanity or else, kind of thing. So yeah, if you installed it, then
there's a website that I've played. Like you can play online with different people, and I think I've done it a couple times. And they made up every single card themselves, and
Really?
we played for like, an hour or so online, and never ran into another card. So I guess it can be done. But I'm not surprised whatsoever that this got taken down so quickly.
yeah, I mean, it was one of the first things I thought of was how can these? Because in their listing, right, it said we're not affiliated whatsoever with the actual game, and yet they just completely copied the whole game. We're letting everyone play it for free. Like, what? So
Come on, guys, you got to do better than that.
yeah. But yeah, fun game. If you had a chance to install it, I think I have it on a phone. I'm not going to share the APK. I don't really want to be involved. Let's see. The other app, I believe Tim wrote this up earlier. It's called Fiverr. I believe I'm saying that right. Essentially a service that allows you to pick up services or have somebody do a service for you, right, for $5 or something like that. It's like the simplest thing.
Can be more or less, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I've never actually used it, but apparently it's a big deal. It's called Fiverr, and yeah, and you can have somebody do almost anything, right? Like I think Tim said, you could have somebody give you a guitar lesson for a couple bucks, or write a blog post for $5.
Yeah,
anyway.
People do voiceover work, and I mean, users are rated by people who have purchased their services in the past, and it's kind of neat, I guess, if you want a job done cheaply.
Yeah, so that's also out. So it seems like a whole bunch of apps have come out in the last week or so. That's all I got for apps and stuff. Anybody have any final topics, or we could wrap up?
I don't think so.
Nothing.
People want to come join me on my Twitch channel later. I guess I could do that.
What are you doing on Twitch?
Streaming Hearthstone, probably.
You're too funny. All right, cool.
Since
well,
Tito's not here, I gotta appease fans. Happy birthday, Tim! If you're listening to this.
Yeah, Tim's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Tim.
Belated.
Yeah, belated. Oh, here's a story that we didn't mention just briefly. So LeBron James, big Samsung sponsorship deal there.
Yeah.
Today.
Oh yeah.
Tonight, apparently he tweeted. This is what he tweeted. My phone just erased everything it had on it and rebooted. One of the sickest feelings I've ever had in my life. As you can imagine.
Was that a note?
Yeah, I'm sure. So as you can imagine, that tweet has since been deleted.
Oh,
right.
I wanted to see it.
Yeah, networkworld.com has it, is where I'm looking at it right now, and they have the tweet screenshotted. So yeah, apparently LeBron didn't think that would be a bad thing to tweet, that his phone just wiped itself, even though he's been in every Samsung major commercial in the U.S. for the last 2 years. Yeah, funny stuff.
The S Pen made up for it. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's amazing how often that happens with these spokespeople. It happens a lot. So.
Yeah. Well, normally it's them advertising an Android phone and then going back to their iPhone.
Right.
This is actually a little bit worse. Oh, it erased all of my stuff.
Yeah, it erased all of my stuff. What am I to do? Oh, whoops.
I wonder how quickly Samsung called him up and told him to take that down.
They couldn't. Their phones were erased. Does anybody have LeBron's number?
Yeah.
Somebody write that down.
So that happened tonight. That's all I got then.
Oh, that's great.
So I guess we'll wrap. I do not know if we'll be back next week, and then the following week's HTC. We'll try to squeeze in a show somewhere here or there, but the next couple weeks we got a bunch of stuff going on, so we'll let you guys know. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. DL Show, episode 52. Seems like we just hit 50 and then it took forever to get to 52, but 52 in the books. Thanks for joining us again. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Later.